Also ahead, the dramatic story of a land where there is little sun and often less hope. What a game has done for the young men of one town.
On occasion, sports transcend their own games, carrying meaning beyond merely who wins and loses. Jackie Robinson's courage made him more than a ball player. Muhammad Ali is a study in sociology. Lance Armstrong inspiring others to beat cancer. But when does the sport all by itself mean everything? Can a simple game actually save someone's life? It can, and it did, in a place far away, where life is hard and cold, as Tom Rinaldi reports, too often, too short.
The word game, sometimes people think of it as being sort of superficial, but in fact it's not. Particularly team sports, I think, can be a very profound experience for those people who are lucky enough to play them.
Early September, Winnipeg, Canada. The Under-19 Lacrosse Nationals. 8 teams fighting for the cup.
I said last night you owe it to the territory to be out here and work hard. It's more than that. You owe it to yourselves. All right?
But for the team in red and yellow, this is not just a game. This is something deeper. This is survival. It's not the end of the world, but it's close. Kugluktuk, Canada. Inside the Arctic Circle, part of the Nunavut territory. Population, roughly 1,150. Remote. Frozen. It's a town where the native Inuit people fish through the ice and talk through the wind.
The wind can get pretty overbearing. It can blow right through to your bones. It'll blow you around, and it can get to 100 clicks easy enough. 100 kilometers an hour for a gust of wind.
Temperatures here can reach 60 degrees below zero. In the winter, darkness lingers more than 20 hours a day. It's a setting that can lead to dark choices.
It's sometimes depressing. I've got a few relatives here that are pretty heavy into drinking.
16-year-old Kyle Aviak has seen alcohol and drug abuse lead to violence. His father would beat his mother in front of Kyle and his 2 sisters.
It made me feel like I didn't want to live anymore. Gave me tough times. I thought about killing myself a couple of times.
For too many people in Kugluktuk, those thoughts ended here at the edge of town. For years, Kugluktuk had the highest rate of suicide in all of Canada. Between 1987 and 97, in a town of only 1,150, there were 15 suicides, 5 of them teenagers. Suicide had become an epidemic.
My uncle committed suicide when he was about 18 or 19 years old. And I've had a few other relatives who committed suicide too.
Young people here just quit. And that was their way of not dealing with some of the life problems. They quit life.
Fresh from college in Saskatchewan, Russ Shepard arrived in Kugluktuk in 1998, unaware of what he'd discover as a new teacher at the high school.
Suicide attempts were off the charts. Suicide almost becomes acceptable. It's almost, and it was, and maybe still is, to a point, almost an acceptable means of dealing with problems.
In Shepard's second year here, more crosses were planted in the cemetery. 3 teenage boys killed themselves in a span of just 5 months. Overwhelmed by those losses, Shepard faced a decision: change the kids' mindsets or leave.
I can't stand by and teach kids and have good relationships and a lot of fun with them to come to school the next day and see an empty desk because they killed themselves. I mean, it's not something I want to do.
Shepard had an idea. Give the kids something to care about. Give them a purpose. So, he gave them lacrosse sticks.
And I called it their girlfriend. I said, if you have that stick with you all the time, you sleep with that stick, you eat with that stick, I said, get your mom and dad to find a place at the table for it and give it its own chair.
He created a school lacrosse program. He called it Team Grizzly. It was a game Shepard grew up with, but the kids had never seen. They did not know the rules, did not know the strategy, did not have a field to play the game on. It didn't matter.
I think when the kids play lacrosse, essentially what happens is they lose themselves in the game. You don't have to think about your dad that's beating up your mom or, you know, your cousin that committed suicide. You forget about your problems. They're not there. They're non-existent while you're on the field.
It's unreal. Everywhere you go, it doesn't matter what season, winter, summer, spring, there's a lacrosse stick in someone's hand.
Lacrosse became more than a game for kids who needed it to be more. Kids with anger and frustration. Kids with grief and loss. Kids like Kyle Aviak.
I fell in love with the game, and I just like contact sports, and I used the game usually just to take out the anger I had inside.
Since Team Grizzly formed 4.5 years ago, there has not been a single teen suicide in Kugluktuk. 0. A town near the end of the world found its center through a game.
I probably wouldn't be here right now if there was no lacrosse here.
It doesn't surprise me to know that someone who found out that people who really cared about him and were really there for him and really supported him would make him look at his life differently than he did before.
Some of you guys have worked through a lot of crap to get here. A lot of stuff. Okay? Not just getting up and going to school. And you need to think about that. You deserve to be here. Now let's get our sticks in here. Let's go! Let's go!
Up, boys! 1, 2, 3, Nunavut!
The Grizzlies did not win a single game in the Nations Cup tournament. But they played. They cheered. They survived. And for the kids from Kugluktuk, that's hope. And that's enough.
The temperature in town this past week was about 30 degrees below zero, but it hasn't cooled Kyle's passion for lacrosse. Clearly, he's already garnered some interest from Division I coaches in the U.S. about playing for their teams. He plans to visit colleges here in the States this spring. His coach will serve as his tour guide.